Beep, 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 beep. Hello. How are we? Right. Let's discuss something. But before we do, buy me a coffee, subscribe, share this. That's the most important thing, apparently, to keep sharing stuff. So if you can share this video on Twitter and wherever else you want, that would be great. Thank you very much. Become a warrior teacher. Yes, we need more of you. Well, go on then. Buy me a coffee. Usual. Right, let's go. Iatrogenic. Right? Very interesting conversation yesterday with a fellow Twitterite. Twitterati, right? Having a conversation about the word iatrogenic. This word comes up all the time, iatrogenic. And its actual pure definition is about a physician essentially doing wrong. Essentially what they're attempting to do to help someone is actually the exact opposite. It's making them worse. The problem we've got is when it comes to something like so-called gender dysphoria, which is actually only distress of some kind when it presents in young people, children, is that the definition which says a physician, which could include a psychologist or a psychiatrist, is that everybody's an armchair expert, including me, right? So what happens is you've got mums and dads behaving like psychologists, and you've got other people behaving like psychologists, and you've got psychologists being bad psychologists. So therefore the entire thing from social transition, when you accept the idea, the minute you accept the idea, the second you accept the idea that it's possible, that is iatrogenic. It is harmful because you've got people behaving as if they are medical experts. So in schools, when the kid goes, I'm now Joanne instead of Joe, or Joe instead of Joanne, and the teachers go, oh, how lovely, aren't you wonderful? Here we are, we'll change your name. Here's a box of clothes you can use. Don't tell your mum and dad, right? So it's iatrogenic from the beginning, right? Now I had this conversation, and I thought it was important to mention this because something's come up that I think is very important, that I think illustrates the iatrogenic nature of not just the transition process, but the entire belief system of this power and oppression crap, which is where it all comes from. So this is something from something called the post-millennial. I put the links as usual in the doobries. Thank you very much for watching. And the headline is this: trans kids prescribed more antipsychotic meds after beginning gender transition than before. Well, well, well. Isn't it strange that when you fill children's heads with a deranging, absolutely perverse belief system, such as queer theory and gender identity ideology and its other revolting teat, critical social justice, all under the banner of progressiveness, when in fact it's postmodernism, is that you send them mad. I've said this all along. This thinking process, this particular arena of thought, sends you insane. And we've seen this in organisations such as the Welsh RSE, you know, child sex education, all that stuff, the Welsh government, the Scottish government, that this stuff deranges. It has deranged people. The lunatics are literally in control of the asylum, which I keep saying. So psychotropic medications increased following gender-affirming pharmaceutical initiation. Iatrogenesis. Iatrogenic, yeah. A 2021 study of military youth has revealed that not only were minors with severe mental illness allowed to embark upon experimental medical sex changes, but also that prescriptions for antipsychotic drugs actually increased after hormonal interventions were initiated. The study, published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine, examined the Department of Defense medical records of 3,754 trans-identified adolescents and 6,603 siblings who did not identify as transgender. Well, first off, that number, 3,754 trans-identified adolescents, is 3,754 trans-identified adolescents who weren't told no. We're not allowing you to join this cult. We are not allowing you to take part in this crazy belief system. Give me your phone. They weren't told no, see? The findings reveal no improvement in mental health after commencing hormone interventions and an increase in prescriptions for psychotropic medication. Get your head around that. Here's a belief system that is utterly deranged and is steeped in nonsense and believes in a gendered soul that is poured into a flesh sack. And here is how you can make your body fit the belief system. Oh, and by the way, you better have these psychotropic drugs because you are going to make yourself deranged. It is a factory for derangement and bodily mutation. It is a flesh-sacrificing cult. Among 963 transgender/gender diverse youth using gender-affirming pharmaceuticals, mental health care did not significantly change, and psychotropic medications increased following gender-affirming pharmaceutical initiation. Older age was associated with decreased care and prescriptions, reads the study. The trans-identified cohort are more likely to have a mental health diagnosis, use more mental health care services, and be prescribed more psychotropic medications compared to the sibling cohort. What we've done to them has damaged them. Let's give them psychotropic drugs to deal with the damage that we have caused them. It's iatrogenic. The most pronounced increases in mental health care were for adjustment, anxiety, mood personality, psychotic disorders, and wait for it, suicidal ideation and attempted suicide. If they go on the bandwagon, if they jump on the trans train, if they start that social transition and move forward to hormonal and everything else that follows from it, they're more likely to have suicidal ideation or attempted suicide or psychotic disorders. What's it going to take? What's it going to take for people who don't believe this to get off the bench? What's it going to take for those sitting around talking about how wonderful trans joy is to recognise the damage and hurt that we have caused to people? That what we have done is a monumental human catastrophe. The study noticed the most pronounced increase in psychotropic medication were in sleep medications, antipsychotics and lithium. For God's sake. When was it a good idea? Oh, let's create lifelong medical patients. What is wrong with us? What is wrong with us? We need primary legislation in every country to stop transition of any kind. It's that simple. Running from reality doesn't make your life better. One of the co-authors of the study, Dr. David Klein of the Grant Medical Center at Travis Air Force Base, believed that these pre-existing serious mental health issues could just melt away after the adolescent undergoes sex change interventions. The belief that they can surgically alter the bodies of adolescents and in doing so solve the problems of the mind. This is insane. This is insane. This is the mind, right? The belief system is more important than the bodily integrity. This is the belief system trumps the reality of the body. Speaking to Urology Times, God, I bet that's a riveting read. Right, speaking to Urology Times, Klein explained that at first glance, it appears from looking at the study that transgender people are more likely to suffer from psychotic conditions such as schizophrenia. But he suggests that perhaps the antipsychotic drugs are being described as adjuncts for severe depression or for insomnia as opposed to a primary psychotic condition. Klein went on to say that rather than there being something inherent about trans people that makes them more prone to psychotic disorders, it's more likely that once a medical sex change is underway, their other diagnosis will start to melt away over time. I mean, this is insane. This is like an anorexic being told, yeah, you're fine, just keep not eating. We're going to help you not eat. It's the same as these people that want their limbs cut off. Right? Same thing. It's the same. There's no difference. Right? It's the same thing. It's the same problem. I don't know what it's called. Or something. Somebody can tell me what it is in the Dupers. That'd be great. I'll look it up later. But you know what I mean. They go, oh my God, I need to lose my legs. Or I want my arm cut off. Same thing. Many proponents of adolescent sex changes argue that high rates of coexisting mental health issue observed in youth who identify as transgender are the result of the pain of being trapped in the wrong body. There's no such thing as a wrong body. If you're in the wrong body, where's the other one? Usual stuff. Why do we keep saying this? The solution, they believe, is to alter the body, then all pre-existing mental health issues will disappear. This is surreal. This is surreal. Isn't it? It's absolutely insane. This is the queering of medicine. The stories of detransitioners suggest that, at least for some, hormonally and surgically altering the bodies of people with serious mental illnesses is not the magical fix proponents of gender-affirming care make it out to be. Why are we pussyfooting around with this? Primary legislation, ban it, full stop. And it certainly shouldn't be being paid for by the NHS, which then subsequently creates a group of people who need medicine for the rest of their life that we pay for. Not doing it. Not doing it. Self-inflicted. Klein was also the co-author of a paper that suggested children as young as 7 were capable of consenting to medical sex changes. 7. See, that's because if they believe, this is like the UNESCO stuff I was spoken about before, isn't it? If they believe the child's sexual from 0, they can make a decision about it at 7. What else can they make a decision about? Klein, you nut job. The paper called the cautious psychotherapeutic approach of watchful waiting for children who suffer from gender dysphoria conversion therapy. Black is white, up is down, folks. Some well-intentioned military-affiliated clinicians may not be aware that a watchful waiting approach has a different risk profile than a gender-affirmative approach, which allows for gender identity exploration. So you're exploring something made up by a bloke in the 1950s who was a bit of a, dodgy fucker, right? That's what they're doing. Klein said it's unethically harmful and generally illegal. He thinks it should be illegal, right? So this is this conversion therapy ban, which must not include gender identity under any circumstances. Come on, Rishi. Patients may face gatekeeping. You're damn right. And we're not going to let children hurt themselves because they're mentally ill. Lunatic. Patients may face gatekeeping and major delays in care, including protracted and pathologizing psychiatric evaluations that question patients' motives. The acceptance of a transgender identity, the acceptance of the transgender cult, moving in to say I am not what I am, is a absolutely massive signifier that they are ill-educated and stupid. That they do not understand that which they do, right? And also that they are, in other cases, mentally ill, right? It doesn't exist. Klein and his team argue that children and parents are capable of consenting to these procedures. These laws also assume that transgender, gender-diverse adolescents and their parents are incapable of understanding the risks and benefits of gender-affirming medical care. Gender-affirming medical care is butchery. And then deciding what is in the youth's best interest of the doctors. Prior research has found that children can begin participating in the medical decision-making as early as age 7 years, with gradual increases in decision-making capacity, and adolescents prefer shared decision-making. Frankenstein stuff. Dr. Stanley Goldfarb, it's unfortunate, right, Goldfarb of Do No Harm, an organisation of healthcare providers seeking better care for minors suffering from gender distress, called such claims laughable. Damn right, Goldfarb, damn right. The notion that 7-year-old children are capable of such decisions is beyond laughable. The existence of a large, perhaps as much as 25% cohort of detransitioners suggests the folly of assuming the soundness of childhood decisions. Just because a child states they understand the implications of gender transitioning does not mean that they can conceive of their future regret. I can't conceive of my future regret next week. I can't. I'm still bad, right? So I know I can go out tomorrow, right? I don't do it anymore because I've learned eventually. I can go out tomorrow, I can have 3 pints of ale and a curry, and I know that I'm going to suffer, but I still do it. It's not just a matter of that they can conceive it, it's that they can control it. They can't. These physicians should examine the literature and face the reality that the reason that Finland, Norway, Denmark and the UK have opted to severely restrict the use of puberty blockers and sex-characteristic altering hormones is that we have little, if any, evidence that we are not hurting more children than we are helping. We need a moratorium. It all needs to stop. All of it. There's no reason to provide amputation that is requested and not required on the NHS. None. The number of children and adolescents taking psychotropic medications has skyrocketed in recent years, with many teens being described multiple drugs at once. Little is known about the effects such cocktail drug has on the developing adolescent brain. As of 2021, 80.5% of American children under 18, or 1 in 12, were taking psychiatric drugs. There is one outcome that we know that directly comes from giving children psychiatric drugs, from giving children gender-affirming care, and that somebody somewhere is making a lot of money. A flesh-sacrificing belief system, embedded in goals around the world, embedded at the very top of the pyramid of our progress, shorn up by teaching processes, corrupted by activists, and spread around the globe. Is that what it is? Have a think, because it might just be. Bye.